Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. We have finished day 2, and we're really fortunate to have Jorge and Lauren, Satoshi, and Tex with us again to sort of review the day, think back over what happened, and maybe forward to tomorrow a little bit. It was an exciting day where we talked about PICCS of the future, where we had networking, and where we sort of started to explore liberation, movement, how we're moving forward. But Lauren, let me kick off with you. What sort of caught your eye today, and what did you learn, and what tweaked your imagination?
So today we had the second research consortium. We had about 120 participants of the multi-professional team, really inspiring that we had not only physicians, but nurses, nurse practitioners, nurse scientists, physiotherapists, all joining in to review regional from the 6 regions that WFPICCS serves and global research priorities. One particular abstract that caught my eye was in oral session number 8. It was a talk about ischemic colitis in the cardiac surgery patients. It was really intriguing, and they looked at the incidence of ischemic colitis. It got me thinking about Jerry Zimmerman's talk on the PICU in the future with wearables and how we can start detecting things in the body before we know it. And I wondered about whether or not we'd have a wearable in the future that would have a specific purpose of looking at gut ischemia.
Who knew that ischemic colitis was would have been so interesting and so important out of all the topics? So people can go to that session on demand, and they can pull that up and they can sort of do it. And ischemic colitis kind of makes us think of Tex Kassoon. Tex, what about you?
Yeah, no, I think that the ischemic colitis plays right into Jerry's talk, where he spoke about harnessing the microbiome, that we are more microorganisms than living cells, and how that's part of the future of medicine and how we harness the microbiome for health benefits. But his talk was wide-ranging, and I think that it is. I would advise everyone to go and look at it, because it gives us the idea of what the future may look like. And from the point of view, he spoke about AI and big data and how we do things, pattern recognition and critical care. He spoke about going and recognizing disease pattern even before florid signs and symptoms. He also spoke about things like, as Lauren mentioned, the issue of having feedback loops, insulin pumps, ventilator feedback loops, etc. But he went beyond the ICU, which was very interesting when he spoke about prevention of premature births and all the antecedent problems, because they end up in the ICU downstream across the world. And I think that has relevance all around the world, because in many cases where there's poor prenatal care, premature births are more common in low and middle income countries. So I think it was very wide ranging. There are some issues that were both directly in the ICU, but I think one of the message he, at least I gleaned from it, is getting partnerships across the world in disciplines that we don't necessarily have. For instance, the antimicrobial resistance, you're getting the issue of climate change and whatever else comes in. But I would say go to it, because I can do justice to that.
He really brought in the concept of the learning system, and even down to the level of the artificial placenta. So some really cool concepts, and linking with some of the things we're hearing in sepsis and ischemic colitis. Satoshi, the incoming president of the World Federation, congratulations. What were your thoughts? What kind of grabbed your attention? I know it was a long day.
The last session of this today was focusing on the early mobilization in the pediatric ICU. That was a fascinating session. And the report from the Netherlands, they implemented a follow-up clinic after the PICU discharged patient in the 7 institutions of the nationwide. This is amazing. And this what we have to consider to implement in each regions all over the world.
Yeah, Satoshi, it's pretty amazing how that spread. I remember maybe about years ago visiting your unit at National Children's Center in Tokyo, and you and Katz and others had put together a remote monitoring system for the technology-dependent children at home that they could call in and video in through telemedicine to your ICU. And you essentially had developed a follow-up clinic right in the middle of your ICU. It's pretty amazing. I was totally blown away by it. And now others are really taking it to the next level. Really cool.
Thank you.
Hey, you're the mastermind of this whole World Congress. I think your fingers have been all over every single session. What did you particularly like about today, and what caught your attention?
Well, today I think one of the oral abstracts presentations. I think Lauren already alluded to. There was another abstract that was presented about AKI in patients with DKA, something that probably we overlook because we don't necessarily see those patients again, but I think that was very interesting and we should pay attention. I was part of the audience of the research consortium, and I think I learned a lot about the research needs in different parts of the world and how it's very important that we collaborate among all of us to advance the field of pediatric critical care. And certainly we're excited about tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and tomorrow, I think the Year of the Nurse presentation, we also will be kicking off with a very integrated, like Fernando Stein is going to talk about integrated care in the ICU. And we're going to have specific breakouts text. There's going to be a whole session on artificial intelligence, and also a whole session, Satoshi, on telemedicine tomorrow. Mm-hmm. The concurrents are really going to cover in depth some of the topics that were touched on in some of the scientific abstracts that were presented today. So it's going to be pulling that together. And then Joseph Manning is going to finish up and really talk about life beyond the PICU, about what happens to our patients as they go through the follow-up clinics and as they're followed out long-term. And then I think Laura, I think we're really going to be able to finish up with a lot of cardiac ICU talks. So it's exciting. But yeah, go ahead, Jorge.
Vinay, don't forget about the workshops. You know, we really have a lot of people who register for the workshops. They are virtual. So we really having a new way to teach, to do problem-based learning. And I think we're very excited. There's a lot of people who have registered for the workshop. So we're looking forward to continue with workshops tomorrow and Friday, our last day.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Now we're gonna finish out by asking each of you if you have maybe one word that characterizes the conference today for you, or what you're looking forward to for tomorrow. Lauren, I'm going to come back and start with you. Okay. What would your word be for today?
So my word for today is inspiring.
Nice, nice. Hey, Tex, what about you?
Riveted.
Riveted to your seat. There you go. Satoshi, what about you?
It was very fascinating.
Fascinating. Excellent. And Jorge?
For me, it's outstanding. And I will say outstanding because the presentation by Mabilde Pedreira was outstanding. Kudos to her and all the people that work with her in Brazil and all the difference that she's making.
Terrific. And for me, one of the words that was captured was bedside watcher. Maya Dewan in her presentation in the resuscitation section was talking about their huddles and their puddles, which are their pod huddles in between, and then their bedside watchers. And sometimes today I felt like a bedside watcher with this virtual concept, but on the other hand, I really was drawn in and fascinated. So thank you guys for joining me this evening, and I'm really looking forward to tomorrow, and we'll see everybody then.
Yep. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.